Welcome back, guys. My name is Tara,
My name is Dana.
and here is another lesson where you can learn some Korean. So, in our lesson today, we're going to talk about counters. Now, what are counters? Counters are ways you can count units. For example, you can say loaves of bread. You cannot say, I have two bread. You can't really say that. You have to say, I have a loaf of bread, two loaves of bread, three loaves of bread, four packs of gums, six sticks of butter. These are ways you can count things you can't usually count. You can't say I have four butter. What does that mean? It doesn't make sense, right? So we have to say sticks of butter. In Korean, they also have the same thing. And literally there are hundreds of counters. There's hundreds of counters. And there's no way you can learn them right now, especially in the beginning stages. But don't worry, in Korean, you can use the common counters that they have. These are the common counters you can use.
So when you count things, you use 개. And when you count people, you use 명. When you count bottles, you use 병. And when you count books, you use 권.
Gay is like the most common one. The most common one. You can use this for almost anything. But you cannot use this when you're counting people, counting bottles, or counting books. These are also very, very common, so you cannot use gay when you're trying to count people or trying to count bottles. You have to use these counters instead. 명, 병, and 관, okay?
개, 명, 병, 권.
Yeah, so these are the most common counters. You should try to remember these because if you're ever in Korea, you're gonna encounter these so often. Like when you're at the shop and you want something from the stand, or when you go to a restaurant and they ask you how many people there are, you can say, there's three people with us. When you're trying to order a few bottles of beer, this is the counter that you will use to order the beer. And before we go to our first example, I need to talk to you about the numbers. Now, when you're counting something, you need to use the Korean numbers. These are the Korean numbers. 하나, 둘, 셋, 넷, 다섯. There's an irregular rule about four numbers, 1 through 4. 하나, 둘, 셋, and 넷. Now, when you're using these numbers, you cannot say 하나, 둘, 셋, 넷. You cannot say that. Instead, you will need to remove the last letter of these words. So when you remove the last letter here, 하나, it will become 한. When you remove the last letter here, from 둘, you get 두. 셋, 세. 넷, 네. When you remove the last letter, you need to use these words. Also, for any numbers that have 1, 2, 3, and 4 in them, like 11, 12, 13, and 14. Now, to say 11 is your hana. 12, your dul, your set, your net. But when you're using the counters like a, myung, byung, or guan, when you're using these counters, you need to remember to remove the last letter of 1, 2, 3, and 4.
열한, 열두, 열세, 열네.
Yeah, so when you're using 11, 12, 13, 14, you gotta remember, you gotta remove the last letter, and then you have the correct way to say it. Also for 21, 22, 23, 24, 31, 32, 33, 34, you remember, you gotta say han, du, se, ne. Do not say hana. Do not say du. Do not say set. Do not say net. Okay? I hope that is clear, and we are ready for our first example. I have a question here. This is like when you're asking, how many something do you have? So we have this sentence here. Now, the first part of the sentence, you need to put whatever you're counting, the noun. So right here, I have sagwa. Sagwa is apple. And so this question is asking, how many apples do you have? for this, I'm using the gay counter. Gay. I'm not gonna, sagwa is not a person, it's not a bottle, and it's not a book. So I'm just gonna use gay. So 사과 몇 개 있어요?
사과 몇 개 있어요? 사과 몇 개 있어요?
Yeah, so when you're saying this, you're asking your friend, hey, how many apples do you have? And then there's only one apple here. In the beginning of the sentence, you got to use the noun first. Apple. And then, because there's only one apple, we need to say 한. 한. Not 하나. 한. So 사과 한 개 있어요.
사과 한 개 있어요. 사과 한 개 있어요.
Yeah, so the first one, remember, you gotta put the noun first, then the number, then the counter. So 사과 한 개 있어요. Now let's do another object. Let's do carrot.
당근.
당근. Man, I cannot say it correctly. 당근.
당근.
Yeah, so 당근 means carrot. We use the counter is 개 because it's not a bottle.
Not people.
It's not a person. It's not a bottle, and it's not a book. So we can use 개. So 당근 몇 개 있어요?
당근 몇 개 있어요? 당근 몇 개 있어요?
Yeah. So I'm asking, how many carrots do you have? There are 2 carrots here, and so guys, remember the first part, you need to put the noun. So 당근, and there's 2, right? So we need to say 두 개.
두 개.
So
당근 두 개 있어요. 당근 두 개 있어요.
yeah, so this means I have 2 carrots. I have 2 carrots. So just remember, put the noun first, the number, then the counter. 당근 두 개 있어요. Let's do another one. 의자.
의자.
의자 means chair. So in this sentence, I'm asking, how many chairs do you have?
의자 몇 개 있어요? 의자 몇 개 있어요?
And then Donna has 3 chairs. And so remember, the first part, you need to use the noun.
의자
And then there are 3, so we need to say
세
세. So 의자 세 개 있어요.
의자 세 개 있어요. 의자 세 개 있어요.
Yeah. So this says I have 3 chairs. And now let's change the counter. Let's use 명. So 명 is a counter for people. So I'm asking how many people are there. But let's specify what type of people. So right here I have written 미국 친구. 미국 means America. 친구 means friend. So I'm asking, how many American friends do you have?
미국 친구 몇 명 있어요? 미국 친구 몇 명 있어요?
Now, you said this a little bit different from last time. 몇 개. Now, is it 몇 명?
몇 명.
명.
몇 명.
I feel like this changed into like a M sound. I think I like
Maybe it's because the next
letter
letter.
is like a M, so you kind of put the words together. You know, a part of Korean is like having the words flow with each other. Like if I say 몇 명, it's kind of hard to
pronounce.
yeah, to
right?
pronounce.
몇 명.
It's kind of hard to pronounce 몇 명 because T is like a stopping point, right? So they changed it a little bit. So it says
softer.
yeah, they make the T softer, and it almost sounds like an M to me, in my opinion.
몇 명 있어요?
Yeah, 명. Yeah, see, it's so much easier to say 명.
몇 명.
Yeah.
몇 명 있어요?
Yeah, it flows a lot easier than the strong T at the end of 몇, right?
Yeah, but it's also I don't know how to explain how I pronounced. You know?
Yeah. There's no like exact letter that in English that we can like translate to Korean, but you know what? Just listen up. Just listen, and then hopefully you can remember. If you have a hard time saying something, I think it's because there's another way to say it. Like before when I was studying this, I was like myung. I was like, man, that is so awkward to say. How do you say that so easily? Then I just hear her myung. I was like, what? What? You don't say the T in this word? Like why? Like why? Why? It you know they find ways to like make things flow easier when it, you know when you say things. Okay, so anyways, long tangent. Now there are 4 people here. We will need to say 미국 친구 4명, not 네개. No, not 네개. These are not things. They are people. So we need to use 명. 4명 있어요. So
미국 친구 4명 있어요. 미국 친구 4명 있어요.
yeah. So just remember, because they are people, we cannot use 게. We need to use 명. And also
네.
네, 4, right? We cannot say net. We have to say 네. 4명. Now let's change the counter again. Let's use 병. Oh, there's the bottles here already. They're ready for you. I think you're gonna know how to say this already. But how do we say water bottle?
물.
Is this correct? How would you say it?
water bottle.
Yeah.
물병.
뭐병 있어요? Do we say 병 twice?
If you wanna say water bottle, yeah, I think it's more better 물병. But when you wanna know about the water, we just say 물. We don't say water bottle. We just water. How many water do you have? You know? Yeah, I think this is
What about
natural.
무병? Can I
물병 몇 병 있어요? It means just water bottle. So it doesn't matter if it's empty or it has water in it. It doesn't matter.
Oh.
Just they wanna know how
how
many
many
bottles
bottles.
you have. But if you wanna know how many water they have, then I think this is more natural.
So, lesson learned. Don't ask for water bottles, just ask for water, okay? But, you know, we're just practicing right now. So, when you're asking, this question says, how many water bottles do you have? And then there are 5 right here. So, Donna can say,
물 5병 있어요. 물 5병 있어요.
yeah, so remember the nouns in the beginning. And then the number, 다섯. There's 5 of them, right? 다섯 병 있어요. So, 무 5병 있어요. Now, can I ask you a question? You know, we put spaces in between words.
I think when you write down there, you need to put the space between 다섯 and 병. But when you just pronounce, I think you just say 물 5병 있어요.
So, I think that's something you should take note of when you're speaking. And then, for our last counter today, we're going to talk about books, 관. So, the counter for books is 관.
한국 책 몇 권 있어요? 한국 책 몇 권 있어요?
Yeah, so this means how many Korean books do you have? 한국 means Korea, Czech means book, so this means Korean book. And then, so this question is asking, how many Korean books do you have? There are 2 here. So, just remember, the first part is the noun, second part is the number. So you would say,
한국 책 2권 있어요. 한국 책 2권 있어요.
yeah, so just remember, very important, the noun is first, then the number, then the counter. So, 한국 책 2권 있어요. Yeah, and then of course, you don't say 둘, you say 두, without the L sound, the real. Okay? And now, I hope you guys memorized all of this, because we have
Test.
a test. We have a counter test. So, guys, as always, you know, you can pause the video if you want. I'll give you a few seconds, and then we're gonna answer together. Also, in this test, you just need to translate the English into Korean. That's all you got to do. Translate from the English to Korean in this test. Okay. Now, the question is, how many bags do you have? To translate this into Korean, you need to say
가방 몇 개 있어요? 가방 몇 개 있어요?
yeah. So this is how you ask any question. All you gotta do is replace the noun. So 가방 means bag. So this question is asking, how many bags do you have? All right. So we have 3 bags here. So I'm saying I have 3 bags. Now, of course, I put 가방 for you in the beginning. Then what do we say here? We would need to say
가방 3개 있어요. 가방 3개 있어요.
yeah. So 세개. So there are 3 bags. So you need to say 세. Then these are things. So you can say 세개. 세개. 가방 3개 있어요. Okay. All right, so let's look at the answer. Now, this question is, how many water bottles do you have? You will need to say,
물 몇 병 있어요? 물 몇 병 있어요?
because we're talking about bottles, you cannot use 게. You cannot use 명. You cannot use guan. We need to use 병. 병 is the counter for bottles. Let's do the next one. Okay, to say I have 5 water bottles, you will need to say
물 5병 있어요. 물 5병 있어요.
yeah, that's what is 5. There's 5 bottles here. And then we need to use byung because they are bottles. You know, there's a counter for bottles. You got to use byung. And then 있어요. You know, I have 5 water bottles. Next question. And let's do this question. Now, how many people are there? Now, the counter for people is
명
명.
사람 몇 명 있어요? 사람 몇 명 있어요?
Yeah, so people, the counter for people is 명. So you got to use 명. Don't say gay because we're not things, we're people. Next question. Now, we got to translate this into Korean. There are 4 people. How do we say 4?
네.
Net. But remember, we cannot, we got to drop the last letter, right? So we don't say net, we say ne.
네.
Ne, and then the counter for people,
명.
명. Yes. So we need to say,
사람 4명 있어요. 사람 4명 있어요.
yeah, so 사람 means people, ne, 4, not net, ne. Remember, you got to drop the last letter. Don't say net. Ne 명 있어요. So remember, 명 means people, and we have a counter for people. You got to use it. We're not things, we're not bottles, we're not books. You got to use 명, okay?
사람 4명 있어요.
Yeah. Next question.
Oh, question 7.
Yeah, we're doing 8 today.
아,
Because we have 4
okay.
counters too. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this. Now, what is the counter for books?
권,
Yeah. So you would need to say,
책 몇 권 있어요? 책 몇 권 있어요?
yeah, so this means how many books do you have? Guan is the counter for books. They're not people, they're not bottles. They're actually a thing, but you know, there's a counter for books. You gotta use if it's a book, you gotta use guan, okay? So don't use ge. Guan is a very common counter, so you need to use guan. Okay, Donna, how do we say 11?
열하나.
Yeah, Yorhana, but of course it has 1, right? So you gotta drop the last letter of hana, which leaves with
한,
your han, and then the counter for books
권,
권
있어요.
있어요. So you need to say
책 11권 있어요. 책 11권 있어요.
yeah. So I have a question for Donna on her pronunciation. Now, this is what I heard.
Yeah.
Yoran. Yoran, not Yorhan. Why? You say Yoran, not Yorhan. When you ever had a here sometimes here, like the first letter of this block, sometimes this letter overtakes the here, the H sound right here. So it sounds like Yoran. Like there's this letter overtakes this one. So it sounds like Yoran, right?
Right. 11권. Yeah.
Like in Korean, I feel like there's a lot of like special rules for some pronunciation to make pronunciation a little bit easier. Yorhan is a little difficult to say, just a tad bit difficult. So they kind of like mash the two words together. Yor and Han, when you put them together, it sounds like Yoran, right?
Right.
Right?
Right. I think most of the H sound when they come together, the previous consonant, I think they
Mash together.
they just pronounce softer.
Oh, pronounce softer. Oh, okay.
Softer.
Yeah, that's correct. Softer. If you're a foreigner, I think every Korean person will at first they're gonna be like, what? Then they're like, Yorhan 10, 1. I know what he's trying to say. He's trying to say 11 like a foreigner does. But but I think if you really want to be like extra, you can say Yoran, and then they're like, wow,
11권.
man, your Korean's really good. They're gonna say that to you. Okay, let's finish this question. 책 11권 있어요. So that's how you say it, I think. Right?
Maybe I'll study more about the pronunciation difference. How do you change when you speak and when you write down?
Yeah. Speaking writing,
'Cause, yeah.
it's different, right? And guys, that was the last question of our test, and then that means you did it. Good job. I hope it was easy. I hope you learn a lot from these lessons. I'll try my best, and hopefully, honestly, I'm also doing this for myself. I want to practice my Korean, and that's the end of our lesson. I hope you learned something today, and if you did, please press the like button and subscribe. It really helps us out. It will make our channel grow, and then that means I can make more videos, and you can learn more Korean. Then you can come to Korea. I don't know, buy some K-pop stuff for your nieces and nephews, because all your nieces and nephews probably want some K-pop memorabilia stuff. That's what I'm doing today, and that's where all my money's at right now. So thank you for watching the video. My name is Tara.
My name is Dana.
See ya.
Bye.